Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Lacrosse Marc Mesh Studios. I'm here with the man that invented Marc Mesh and mesh butter, Marc Leveille, and we are doing this video because we get a lot of emails of people that have mentioned they would like to meet Marc and know what inspired Marc to come up with Marc Mesh. So here we go. Marc, that's the first question. What inspired you to come up with Marc Mesh?
Yeah, I found that stringing as many sticks as I was stringing back then with Joel and his buddies, playing a lot of lacrosse, we found that, once their stick was finally broken in and going where they really liked it, the mesh was over. It was just breaking and everything was just not good. So we decided we should look at getting a mesh that's got good quality, got great performance and consistency, and that's where Marc Mesh came.
So that makes sense. You wanted to come up with something with the performance for lacrosse. However, and I played lacrosse back in the day too, and yeah, it seemed every time your mesh got broken in, its lifespan was very limited, and you wanted something that would give you that extra little bit of lifespan so it would last a personal full season. So with the mesh butter, when did you get started on making the mesh butter, which goes into the Marc Mesh, and what were some of the things that you did in the beginning?
Yeah, I started goofing around with the mesh around the early 90s to mid 90s, and we tried everything and anything. I would do what I needed to do, throw it in Joel's stick, and that was the key. It had to throw. It had to be in a stick.
Right on. Well, that's truly the way it works. Is you got to try everything and throw it in a stick, see if it works. But when did you get to the point where you said to yourself, we're going to go with a wax base, this is definitely seems to be the way to go, it seems to be the way that's working, and then getting to the point where you invented mesh butter?
Nobody thought about putting wax in mesh at all because like everybody else, we just thought, wax on skis, wax on a car, everything just rolls off and is slippery and whatnot. You thought, this is going to be not going to work. But like I said, we tried everything. I had 5 or 6 pieces of mesh that were being dipped and all kinds of great crazy things, and stringing them into a stick. Joel would try them, and then Joel came back and said, you know what, Dad, this wax one has some potential. Sure, it's got some problems. So that's why we sat back and said, out of all of these, this is something we probably could work with. And so we came up with the idea that the only way this is going to work, it's got to get embedded into that nylon, and so that's why we did what we did.
And that's where you started to make the leap in terms of making mesh butter, which was obviously by embedding it into the nylon, you're now going to give it that your original solution of having a mesh that after it's broken in is going to give you some playing time.
Yeah, we just can't go into great details of everything that we put in there, but we did some things, and Marc Mesh got invented. But the key was to get it embedded in there, and with the chemical solution we have, it works.
Well, Marc, one of the questions a lot of people ask is, what is a life expectancy of a Marc Mesh? Obviously, Marc Mesh costs a little more than a regular mesh, and people would expect it to last a little longer. That was your original goal to begin with. What would, in your opinion, what would you say is the life expectancy?
Well, it all depends on how much lacrosse you do. Obviously, it was funny because, like I said, when we first started doing this, Joel and his buddies just seemed to the mesh couldn't keep up to their lacrosse life. So, I wanted to invent something that at least lasts a year, and that's what I would recommend, that this mesh is in your stick for a year, a whole season, and then it should be replaced as far as I'm concerned. But there are people out there that's had it for a year or two, 3 years, but obviously it's just like everything else. You want a nice new fresh sidewalls and shooters and everything else, one season's good. Really good.
Well, I would have to agree with you. After being in the business with you, certainly it would seem most players get it replaced after 1 year. Makes sense to freshen up your sidewalls and shooters. You don't want to get midway through your second season and have to change up your stick. But yes, that's you mentioned 3 years, and the name that comes to my mind is Andrew Spack. who played professional indoor lacrosse, professional outdoor lacrosse as a draw man, and he had the option of changing it every year, but for 3 years he kept the same one, and I'll never forget when he did change it. He was like, oh, and his fear was that it wouldn't be the same stick, and he was able to break in the same stick instantly, and he was like, why didn't I switch?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that to me. I know that one of the questions I get asked a lot is box or field, and I can tell you that it's this is lacrosse mesh for lacrosse, and a lot of people up here in Canada, what they'll do is they'll string their stick for box, use it for that season, start their season off in field. Once they get the muck and everything through their stick, then they'll change it back to field where it's another, or back to box, and they'll get it restrung just for box. And so what you're basically doing is you're basically getting 2 seasons out of it, because you know, here in Canada we play box and field, but that's what they've been doing.
Right on, right on. So Mark, the last question that we're constantly getting sent in to us by email and people want to know is there something new on the horizon? Is there anything you're tinkering with that, you know, could pop up on the market sometime?
Well, you know, Timmy, I mean, you watch us every day, and we're always tinkering with all kinds of crazy things and whatnot. And I can honestly say, from the get-go, our colors have really improved because we're trying all these new things. But as of right now, as far as the Marc Mesh and the mesh butter, we just haven't found anything that's gotten better than what it is. And so, but listen, we're going to keep plugging away.
Well, you're certainly right, Mark. I do bear witness that you and Joel are constantly tinkering, constantly, you know, trying out something new. And yeah, let's hope one day that you can come up with something better than mush butter. We'll see. All right, and there it is, lacrosse fans. You got a chance to meet Marc Leveille. And Mark, I appreciate you doing this video. You know, videos certainly aren't our thing, as anybody watching this would be able to tell, but you know, people have questions, and this is a great way to answer them, and I think we enjoyed doing this.
Yeah.
Certainly, we look forward to getting more of your questions. You can email them to info@bclax.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Blue Collar Lax, and we look forward to getting more questions and doing more of these videos. It's the knowledge is power. Thanks for tuning in.